Grant Daniel now.
It's Grant Daniel.
The gold lady this year. Oh my God, it's Grant Daniel.
And our mom, Chezzi George. She's really crazy.
It's all true.
It's All True, the podcast with Grant and Chezzi George.
Hey.
Imagine everything we've been saying up to now was indeed a lie, and the whole podcast was an actual prank. You know what I mean? You know how
it's all not true.
It's all not true.
God, we've spoken about a
Imagine
lot of
that.
stuff. That's a big prank.
That's an elaborate, long-form prank. Be pretty funny,
what
though.
on earth made you think of that?
Well, I just thought it's all true, and I thought,
Imagine if it's not all true.
yeah.
Then what would
imagine.
our real lives be like? Just really vanilla.
Yeah. I like crocheting. I like making nice lap rugs for wintertime.
What's wrong with that?
It's handy. You're right. It's a wonderful thing.
Grant actually does knit.
Oh, I used to knit. Shut up! Don't tell anyone.
He does.
Instead of horse lips, it's cow lips. Sorry, guys, I was lying.
Yeah, exactly. See, it's all not true.
You are the noisiest drinker.
Oh, get stuffed,
I just heard it through the intro.
mate. Have you heard you swallow? You swallow. Here, have you still got stuff in your cup?
No.
And then you got.
Alright, okay, you
Here, I'll have this one. I got nothing
No,
left.
I don't like that.
Mate, because your swallowing is obscene.
All right, this is I don't know why we're doing this, but anyway.
No, you need actual liquid. There was no sound there.
Air water.
Did you hear that? He's very noisy.
Mate, you're throaty. When it goes down like past your mouth and down through your neck, it'll wake the dead.
I did this I was going through this real healthy, diet. What was it? 3 years ago or something. And every night I'd hop into bed to watch TV and I'd have an apple and a cup of herbal tea, and Grant would turn the TV on and we'd be watching a show. Oh, my cheeks are hurting because I'm laughing so much. And I'd bite into the apple and it was really crunchy. And you know what? I enjoyed every bite because I was eating real super healthy
crisp apples.
I was like,
you know when you got the television
Yeah.
just turned down, the lights are out, it's dark. You're just hearing the television because you don't want to wake the kids, and then old Munch-a-Lot next to you is just smashing down a Granny Smith. And it's like an earthquake. Every bite was just like
Obnoxious.
and then followed by a when she has a drink.
Grant's like-
It's that loud.
and Grant would pause the TV and he'd be like, "You finished?" No, I'll just have this last bite.
Oh my God. It was
You could be like the Foley effects, when they do the sound effects and they get special people to come into a studio and you just make all the noises that you can't hear in the movie, like
exactly.
the footsteps.
Like,
and
I fell in the water. How's that?
the water droplets. Great.
Oh, you do-
Well, not bad.
How do you
Thanks.
do that?
Wow, you just flicked yourself in the eye.
You do end up with a very sore cheek after doing that sound effect.
I used to do a really funny voice where I'd be like, I can't do it
When
anymore.
you choke.
I can't do it anymore. I don't know. No, I'm not
Your
joking.
coughing
but
fits are fun, particularly when we're in the movies, like when we go to the cinema and you go into a coughing fit where it's
so annoying.
It's like a full body experience where she's like convulsing almost,
No,
coughing,
it's like,
and it's
excuse
like
me.
you are dying.
The reason why at the movies is because I will inhale a bit of popcorn, right?
Yeah.
And it happens. But those coughing fits, they are hereditary because my mum has them too. And it's like, I used to probably get anxiety if I was in a big auditorium and everyone was being really quiet, because I don't know if it's like the post-nasal drip or something would drip down the back of my throat and then I'd be like and start to cough. And because I'd try to suppress it, it would become so huge and I'd be crying and you know what?
Oh,
that
man,
has
and
happened.
And then I'm like, mate,
stop. It
Everyone
does
is
not
turning
happen.
around looking at us. Can you die in silence, please? This is embarrassing.
Do you
You're
know-
ruining everyone else's movie.
Do you know once I was listening to John Howard, he came in at like a big Liberal Party launch and he was the Prime Minister.
You won't
and I
know
was
this because you're
sitting-
21. He was a
Yeah.
Prime Minister of Australia at once, at one time.
John Howard.
Yep.
My neighbour was John Howard. I thought you were talking about him.
Was he really?
John
Yeah,
Howard.
dead set.
From
Good mates
Blaney.
with my grandpa.
Really?
Oh, that's amazing.
Not the John Howard you're talking about, though.
Yeah.
Continue.
John Howard, like the cute little old man with the big eyebrows, and everybody was like really silent, and there was hundreds of people in this auditorium, and I was sitting like almost right up the front with all the dignitaries. And then I kept thinking to myself, God, it'd be really bad if I had a coughing fit in here
so
right
you
now.
talked yourself
I
into it.
did. And then I was like, oh no, I've got a tickle. Oh no, I've got a tickle. And then they did like some kind of, the smoky kind of machine thing, like or
God, was he in a magic show or something, was he? Or did John
Bit of
Howard,
David Copperfield going.
did someone throw a rug up and then all of a sudden the rug came down and there was John Howard? Like,
Rug goes up and it's
what
the new
the
Prime
hell's
Minister.
the Prime Minister doing with a smoke machine? Did he bang out a set? Did he just DJ for an hour, did he?
Albo would.
stop. I've got all hot. No, and I kept thinking to myself, oh, this is not going to be good. This is not going to be good. And then I was like, and the people next to me were looking at me going,
And the harder
are you
try
okay?
and
I
keep
know.
it in, the worse it is.
I had tears and I was like, and I looked around because usually I walk out so then I can go and do a proper cough. And I'm looking around. The walkway was like I'd have to go through heaps of people. So I had to sit there really quiet.
The word cough makes me cough.
Cough.
No, don't.
God.
It's always done that.
Cough.
Yes, talking about coughing makes me cough.
And it makes you cough. Oh my,
Oh my
goodness.
God. I never knew this. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I've always had that.
Superpower.
And yet you bagged the crap out of me. And now I've got a
Because it's fun.
cough.
You know how
Cough.
Don't.
Oh my God.
What the heck?
You know how yawns are contagious? You know when someone
No.
yawns around you and then you yawn?
No.
Yes, you do.
No.
Yeah, see that if you just saying the word cough makes me cough, or hearing the word cough triggers the cough.
Cough.
No.
Cough.
I'm gonna have a.
This is so good. Oh my gosh. Next time.
What about shit?
Oh God! It's happening.
Oh my God.
That's
I
awkward.
never knew this about you. And see, I have felt for years inadequate because of my choking, my terrible cough. Like I'll eat a bag of pork crackles, right?
Which are
And-
like a dusty item, they're covered in fine,
Yeah.
crispy, pork crackling dust.
or if I eat a bag of nuts or like anything that chews up and then I start to talk, I must breathe it in and I always go,
Yeah, it's like putting Milo on ice cream and milk in a cup, and you sort of go and
Yes.
sip at it,
As
and
you
you
breathe
inhale
in
the
the
dust.
dust.
Oh,
Exactly.
horrible feeling.
Great call by you. It's exactly what it is.
I've not done
But you
that.
know what it is? It always happens at the worst possible time. So we'll be watching a movie and it'd be right as like this important bit of information is being told in the movie that's critical for us understanding the rest of the movie. And I'm like, she'll go into a coughing fit instantly. And I'm like, I would prefer to just smother her out with a pillow.
This makes me laugh so much because every movie we ever watch, Grant always says, "Who is that? Well, why is this happening? Why is it? Don't you?" And
I
they
don't even
always
know
say,
who this person is.
And
I
he
think
goes,
it's a man thing.
"How are they related?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, I've just had a coughing fit for 5 minutes and I've come back and I still get the storyline." Have you seen
Got some
Gangs of...
reviews
Oh,
this
sorry.
week, guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got one in my hand. This is from Rachel77. Rachel says, Grant, Chezzi and George, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything you do with your podcast. Every week I wait for Fridays as I feel like I'm with my best friends, and you have no idea how much I need that right now. I've just gone through a terrible divorce and was feeling very alone when a friend introduced me to your podcast. And at first I was hesitant as I thought I knew about you guys, and I'm sorry to say I actually had no idea. I thought listening to people off television would make me actually feel worse about myself because you both seem to have so much going for you. But I was very wrong.
does not end there, does it?
It doesn't end there, but I
Oh.
wish it did. You're right, Rachel. We have nothing going for us. You are naturally kind and such bright lights, but so down to earth. Your show is like a warm hug. It's just so refreshing to hear from such normal people finally, and I cannot tell you how much you have saved me. Please, please, please don't ever stop your podcast, Rachel.
That is that's
That is
really
lovely.
nice. I feel sorry, Rachel, about this episode, how it started.
As it
not
turns
really a
out,
warm
Rachel
hug.
was right. We really don't have much going for us. We're talking about...
That's the greatest review ever.
Isn't it nice?
Oh, that is really nice.
Well, we hope you're working through your tough time, Rachel. Relationship breakups are heavy going and they take some time, so be gentle with yourself.
Yeah, be kind to yourself. Oh,
Jinx.
jinx.
Cute.
Cough
Cough
together?
in there. Don't cough in when we're saying something nice to
Well, we
someone.
just did it together. I just thought we'd cough together, show how in sync we are.
No, cough. This is my new trick with you. I'm just going to, whenever you're being annoying, I'm just going to go cough.
Oh, mate, I go to the doctors for that, and they say they hold a certain part of your body and say cough.
Yeah.
George knows what I'm
It's a weird
talking about.
sensation.
I don't know why doctors they cup your balls and they say cough. Now I can't possibly think
Now,
what
hold
on
on.
earth
Has this happened
that
to
would
you?
indicate to them. Like, why is that a necessary part of a health checkup?
They obviously want to feel movement in your testicles.
Either that, or I've just got an absolute pervert as a doctor, and it actually has nothing to do with medicine
Has
We
whatsoever.
that-
do,
has
we
that
do
happened
go
to
to the same doctor, so maybe that's the case. Yeah,
Has that happened? Have you actually had that happen? What they hold?
I have.
They hold
I have
your
had that.
balls and then say
And-
cough.
The other thing too, Chezzi, is that if you're a left-hand writer, your right testicle, I believe, should hang lower, and vice versa.
Yeah, that's right.
What?
It's is it the opposite? So if you're right-handed, your left one hangs lower. I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What? I never knew that.
Yeah.
Why is that?
George, just stand up and just put your junk into the Zoom
No.
camera there, and we'll have a look.
Doing it right now though, and it's correct. I'm a left-hander, and my right is hanging lower.
Now, can you just cough for me?
I thought that the one that hung lower was the one that hadn't been used yet.
Oh.
Hadn't been used. What do you mean?
Oh.
Well, I think Chezzi's of the belief that you alternate between testicles, don't you? So
Yeah, I don't know
with
why I
each
thought
go, what comes from one side, and then
Yeah.
the next time
Is that
it
not
comes from
right?
the other side. I actually don't know.
Because I remember reading something saying if you want girls, always go from the left testicle. that does it.
There's no
We
valve.
can't control which one it comes from. We can't go, hey, left one work today.
Yeah.
No, but then I guess the theory was that you go. It's I don't know, like you go left, right each time. This is really
But
weird.
do
How do
know-
we?
We don't know which time it's doing it to know when it's going to be
Well,
left.
because you have a
Yeah,
look
it's not
and
like a
you see which
PlayStation
one's
remote.
you see which one's hanging lower. Which you're telling me that's obviously not true. It's an old wives' tale because if you're right-handed, you're always going to have one hanging lower. So that means that according to that old wives' tale, some people are always going to shoot girls.
No, that old wives' tale. Then can't be correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But is what you're saying correct about it hangs lower? God, we
don't
need to
know.
get a bloody doctor on to talk
Look,
about
I'm not 100% sure if that's correct, but I know this review is correct from Les the Drive. The Pod, it's titled 5 stars. Hi, lovers. I just found your podcast and I'm enjoying it so much, but I drive trains in Sydney and people must think I'm strange when I'm laughing while arriving at stations. Keep the laughs coming. Regards, Les.
Oh, Les, you
What a bloody legend.
Yay, keeping the people on
We heard from
time
a
to
fair
work.
income train driver. I love those
Choo-choo.
guys.
And do you know what? We found out that we also know another train driver who listens to us,
Yeah.
Jamie.
That is
Say hi to Jamie.
Oh, they're lucky bastards. It's like my dream job. God, I'd love to do that. I've always wanted to do that.
Do you think it would get a bit boring though after a while? Because you can't go like really fast. You just have to go a set speed.
Yeah, but that's okay. You're just doing the tracks and the machine. You're just working the engines and the controls, and you're bringing it in nice and smooth so no one falls over when you come to a sudden stop. You know what I mean? Like, that's cool. I
We
had
should
train
talk
sets
to-
as a kid, so it's like Yeah.
We should talk to a train driver.
I know
Yeah.
they have tough times as well sometimes because they come across serious incidences where people have been on the track. So like it's heavy going
Very
for the
true.
poor guys.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah. I think I'm sure there's a few that have seen more than the average person should. But I love the idea of driving a train.
You do love trains.
See the countryside as well and the beautiful outback of Australia if you go on one of those types of trains.
That drives
It's
past our
quite
house.
relaxing.
Yeah, the Garn goes past our house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause-
Oh no, Indian Pacific.
That's
don't
the
know.
one, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure.
I've got a review too from 73 Kells. Thank you, 5 stars. I've only just started listening in the last few weeks from the beginning of the podcast. Absolutely loving it. Can't help but laugh along with you all in every episode. Thank you for being so real.
Yep. Just
Thank you, Kels.
one set of genitals per podcast at a time.
Speaking of genitals,
What?
George, this
Oh, come
no,
on. Yeah.
this might have been well before your time because it was a while ago. But did you know that Grant got naked? What?
I think when it might have been
2010.
Oh,
Grant got absolutely stark as naked on national TV. Did you
Mate,
know
I
that?
do. I was 9 years old and it was on Sunrise, right? You were
Yeah.
breaking a
Yes.
world record of sorts. I was, from memory, staying with my nan and pop at the time and about to go to school whilst watching that. Most awkward thing ever. And now that my nan and pop know that I work with you, they're concerned. They are concerned.
well, they should be.
Do you know the reason why I bring it up is that Spencer Tunick, that's who had organised this huge body of
He's
people.
a famous, global photographer who's famous for doing, enormous group nude landscapes. I guess.
What a niche.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very niche. So he did one on the steps of the Opera House, and we were there broadcasting live with Sunrise because it was
We
like
had-
a big event.
We had just returned from our wedding / honeymoon on Hamilton Island. I don't know if you can remember. And it was our first day back working. And so we were like feeling like really chuffed because we'd just had this most beautiful wedding with all our family and friends, and we'd eaten like 1,000 chicken chippies for some reason. I remember that.
A few little cocktails by the pool.
Yeah, 47,000 pretty much. We had a great time, great week, and we came back to work and we were sent off to do Spencer Tunick. And do you remember?
So it wouldn't have been too dissimilar to your wedding.
I basically hadn't put any clothes back on in the entire time.
Get right in.
But before we went to get married, I don't know if you can remember this, Grant, you rode the postie bike around Australia.
Across Australia, yeah.
And so this was like only 2 weeks earlier. So Grant had the most severe, do they call it trucker's sleeves?
Like tans,
Yeah.
T-shirt tans.
So when he was naked at Spencer Tunick, he had like a full white chest with like a brown neck and face and brown arms.
I wasn't in great nick.
It's like
Let's be
awesome.
honest. Just crossing the country and staying only in pubs, and then going on a honeymoon where you just, you indulge because it's a time for celebration. Yeah, I wasn't the sharpest rig you've ever seen. And then we weren't planning on getting naked. We were just broadcasting there, just sort of on the edge of it, trying to stand back to film it, just so we weren't sort of getting close-ups of people's bits. It was just a collective of skin. You couldn't really see much detail.
There were so many people,
Like
honestly.
500 maybe.
Like there were so many people. So we're there setting up and there's all these naked people and they're just walking around, and I just remember looking at them thinking how free they
They
looked.
were so confident.
Yeah. And I was
So
like,
they were walking, they weren't cupping their bits.
No.
Everyone was just standing there and they're all good and they're just chatting, and it was actually, they made it look quite normal.
they did.
And I was like, I wish I had a relationship with my body where I was comfortable enough to be able to just, do that. And I was watching in awe of these people. I was like, that's cool that they feel so comfortable with themselves.
And there was like, I don't know, it was very strange because you would, when you're talking to people, you would keep your eye line up, but your peripheral would, you'd be able to see there was lots of hairy bits and
George wouldn't help himself. He'd be going, "Hi, I'm George. Nice to meet you, boobs." Oh, Jesus, God damn it! Said it.
And there was so many like people. We were kind of all behind this barricade, and we're all set up, and there was lots of media there, and so we did the first cross, and and we're having a good time, and Grant and I actually we thought it would be a good gag. Do you remember we brought that apron with the boobs on it or something? Remember? Because we were like, oh, we'll pull that out. And we'll do that.
Just for a bit of fun, bit for a gag. But
then in one of the crosses, I don't know what happened, but they started chanting.
One person started going, Grant, you should come in. Grant. And I was like, oh, that's funny, yeah. And then 2 people were doing it, and then 10 people were doing it, and then 50 people were doing it.
And they're like, Grant.
And I'm
Grant.
And I'm live, and I'm like, you know what?
And I've got...
Bugger it. And then just ripped all my clothes off.
And he's jumped the fence. And meanwhile, I've got my earpiece with the line producer, and he's going, he is not stripping off. He's not stripping off. And I'm like, no. Oh, God, no, he won't strip off. No, we've already spoken about this. He's not going to take his clothes off, blah, blah. And he's like, no. Get the pixelates ready, blah, blah, blah. And then the next minute I turn around and I can see Grant's taking his shoes off, and I've gone... oh, and pulled the earpiece out of my ear because I can hear them screaming.
And all the kit came off, jumped the fence, ran in there with all the peeps, stood there with my little Tic Tac just hanging in the wind.
No, but it was I remember when we finished up, you said that was one of the most incredible experiences of my life.
Yeah, it was really unusual because there was sort of just, there was this collective, high vibe. Everyone was sort of pumped, and when the whole crowd rallied behind you to do it, I wouldn't have had the confidence to do it otherwise. So and then I joined them, and I was on the steps of the Opera House with 500 naked people. That was so random.
It was incredible.
Isn't it crazy too, the things you will do if there's a microphone or a camera in front of you and you know what, this is going to be good value. You wouldn't do it if the camera and mic wasn't there.
God, no. No. The amount of things I've managed to do on live television, I would never have done them in my life. It's only because, it will make a great moment, and it's worth the risk or the effort because there's so many people watching. So you tend to find you can dig deeper. You find more confidence. You're braver. I've done so many things that I would never have otherwise done. And you're right. It's because there's a camera there, and it's not because you want to. It's not because you want to be famous or anything. You feel like you owe it to the audience to give them something special. So you're like, all right, I'll sacrifice my dignity or, my fear of heights or whatever it is that you're doing that day, for your entertainment.
And it sounds like what was an entertainment piece turned into quite a wholesome moment. Like you kind of felt something from it.
Well, wholesome until you had to watch it with your grandparents that morning as a 9-year-old while you were chewing down on your sausage for breakfast.
But you know what? There were so many people who, because I also used to read all the emails that came in because I was the Sunrise Soapbox manager, one of my many roles, and a lot of the emails that came through were saying how nice it was to see you do that and how and I think probably the really bad trucker arms really helped.
And the man boobs I think made the rest of Australia feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
And that was a nice,
But it was a moment in time. Incredible. We'll have to get some footage of it.
I've only seen photos. I don't know if there's any footage. As we've said before, a lot of my footage has been taken down from YouTube. But there are photos of me standing out there, starkers, with everybody.
No other weatherman has done that. I don't think. That's pretty unreal.
No. There was other weathermen there on the day, and you saw them.
I think that was the day that Stevie Jacobs decided to quit.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I think he stayed on for another 10 years after you left.
He might have done. I'm not sure.
Okay, so we have another a new segment, right? That we're going to run.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really exciting. So we've asked for unbelievable stories, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Because we've run out.
We
well,
have not.
We have not.
It's an endless pool, my friend. But we've thrown the net out far and wide, asking people what kind of rando experiences have they had that might be a great yarn. And that's why we have called it this.
Here's a segment on It's All True that we like to call It's Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
It's unbelievable. And today's is, when I say out of this world, it is legit out of this world because we are talking astral traveling.
Yes, I'm so excited for this.
I'm not even sure what it is, but I
Yeah.
know it's about other worlds. But this guy knows plenty about it. Let's bring him into the conversation now. He's joining us.
Broadcasting live from space.
Here he is.
Hey,
That's
Greg.
How are you?
Yeah, good.
G'day, Greg. It's Grant, Chezzi, and our producer, George, here. Thanks so
Hi,
much
Chezzi. Hi, Grant. Hi, George. Yeah, great to be here.
Yeah,
mate.
thank you for coming on. We're so excited for this. We're so pumped.
Same.
All right.
Now, we've just given you a sweet little intro, which basically only sets out the outline of astral traveling. Okay, now you have experienced this phenomena, so please, for a layman like me and probably to many that are listening, explain what that is.
It's a good question. It actually took me a while to know what it was. I had to research it when it happened. It took me quite a while. I had no idea. I'd never heard of it. So basically, look, it's getting conscious while you're asleep. So you become really lucid. You become totally awake. And then there's this feeling of movement out of the body. So it tends to be accompanied by a feeling of movement. That's why it's called astral travel. And then you tend to go to like places that are, put it this way, your senses are really incredibly kind of, well, you have this high sensory perception. So everything, there's more dimension. Like you can go in this particular reality, what they call like the fourth dimension. I know it sounds weird.
No, mate, look,
Now it's a normal thing for me.
That's
or
good.
you can go into other places totally like past lives and even totally other, like where there are people who are not humans. And it's so odd. The thing that struck me early on was that the places I would go to or the scenes I go to, my senses were much kind of more in tune. So it made 3D or this reality feel kind of less real. So it was hyper real is what I'm saying. That's why it was so bizarre.
So if I can just summarize
love this.
just briefly, just so I can try and get this right. And look, this is a safe space, so nothing you say will be deemed as anything weird or strange. And we've dealt with past lives a lot in this podcast, and we go to lots of crazy places, right? We love it. So you are pulled from your body and you're taken somewhere else, and you're fully conscious while that happens.
That's a good way of putting it, because what I found is you don't just go out, you tend to be guided out. So that notion of being pulled is actually very accurate.
When did this first happen to you? So is this something that you have done all your life, or was this just completely left field when it happened first?
It was pretty left. Yeah, it was pretty left field. It started in 1999. So it's how many years ago? Is that 23 years ago? So I guess as a kid, you know how kids have hyper realistic experiences where they have dreams and they're kind of like I used to sleepwalk as a kid, or I did have lucid dreams a lot. That's kind of like a finger on the same hand where you wake up in a dream and you know you're dreaming. But it just started. It started actually. Look, I've been into meditation for years, just for relaxation, just for anxiety, like since my early 20s, because I used to be a classical musician. I trained in Melbourne, and it was just very tense performing. You know, I just wanted to be comfortable on stage. So I got into meditation. I think that kind of primed me for it, but it did just happen. I remember it was just before dawn. That's when it tends to happen. And there was like this white light that came into my forehead, and it seemed to like collect all of this electrostatic kind of white light behind my eyelids that's often there, and it collected into this center, and then there was just this wind and this really rushing sound, and it was kind of like not verbally, but it was just feeling, do I want to go with it? And it also, my heart felt really good. I remember this energy poured into my heart, so I wasn't scared, and it was totally left field. I'd never meditated for anything so-called spiritual or bizarre. I never meditated for that reason. It was just relaxed. So then I went down this what could only be called a wormhole. I say that because not a week later, I'm living in Vienna at the time in Austria. Not a week later, I see the Jodie Foster film, Contact.
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And there's this fantastic scene where she's going down a wormhole, and that was exactly the feeling. And I remember thinking, wow, who created this? I remember writing to the creators thinking, how did they get this whole wormhole sequence?
Wow.
And then I remember coming out at the end of that traveling sensation. I was just pulled down this hole. It wasn't scary. And then I remember seeing this very modern buildings it just felt like it wasn't Earth. And I wasn't really into the whole UFO or alien thing, but it was a feeling of these very tall towers and these strange structures that were kind of like disc-shaped at the top buildings. There were lights on. It was like a different atmosphere. And I just was hovering there going, wow, this just is just hyper real. Once it just felt incredible. And I just knew that there was some kind of contact.
Do you have any idea or indication of where you might have gone to, or where this place was? Was it a different place in time, or a different part of the galaxy, and now, or?
Yeah. That's a good question. I've often thought about that. It was the feeling that it was a different place altogether. Sometimes, I thought, could it be Earth in the future? Because it was just a desert, but very modern buildings. But it was the feeling it wasn't Earth. It was just the feeling of, plus the experiences I had not long after that were very otherworldly, like beings, extraterrestrial kind of beings, which I didn't really think about beforehand. Those movies like Alien just freaked me out, so I didn't watch them. I remember seeing the first one. So I'm not really into that kind of stuff. So it was the feeling of another world.
Okay.
That's so. Sorry.
He just said aliens, so I
No,
can't.
I know you can't hold
let
him.
him
He
go.
can't help himself.
can't.
But
This is-
first of all, before we go to the aliens, I just want to know: did you keep this to yourself? Did you think you were having a mental breakdown?
Yeah. Well, I remember the good thing is my girlfriend at the time is now my wife. She was told her, I just said, look, I just get the feeling something huge has happened, because I remember coming out of this just like feeling really blissful and ecstatic, and that's often a sign of these hyper experiences or hyperdimensional, interdimensional experiences. So I did think for a while, because I had a lot of follow-ups that were to do with kind of ET and things and guides, and I wasn't really into that whole New Age concept of guides. I was just a musician enjoying myself, and it was kind of like I remember a few times thinking, "Am I going absolutely mad?" The thing is, I was quite a grounded person. I think I still am. So I just thought it was confusing, but I knew I was sane. I just knew it was somehow something that was of a spiritual nature. That's what it showed itself to me eventually, because I got quite ratty out there. I'd be insulting beings there, and like I didn't know what was going on.
This is so bloody good.
So,
All right, Chezzi can't talk, so I'll take over. All right, mate. Aliens.
Grant's obsessed with aliens.
Shh, this is me now. This is my territory here. Obviously, the American government's now coming out. They're going, yeah, look, there are, and here's some footage. The whole world is now waking up to the idea that there are other beings out there, and whether they are with us full time or visit us or whatever. You have had some interaction with them, or you've seen them in this astral traveling?
Yeah, I've had some interaction. It's interesting because even I had this thing that I would call now. Well, I called straight after like a past life regression thing. This was pretty early on in my astral career, and so what happened was, so either lights or vibrations would kind of wake me up. Right, this was a classic experience. So I'm asleep, and just before dawn it happened. So there's kind of these vibrations kind of stuff. And then I heard a voice. It was actually my own voice. So often I would hear my own voice speak through like the top of my head, but it was like through a resonator. It was like really echoey. He seemed to know more than I know. Like it was kind of like, what? And I sort of woke up and I realized, okay, I'm in an astral state. So what that feels is you feel vibrations, and it was kind of like in a void, like a dark, just a nothingness, like a waiting room. And then the voice said, I want to see me, which I thought was an interesting thing to say. And it was like my own voice. Then I saw myself as I was then, 20 odd years ago, like 3D, like totally, even 4D, you can kind of see around the back of things. That's how it's so hyper real. And then there was like a slideshow. And once again, this wind, this what they call the astral wind in the ears. And then I became a little kid, a baby, and then I disappeared. Then there was this old sort of Chinese Mongolian guy, same thing, slideshow. All the while, my eyes were staying in the same place. The eyes never moved.
So this is you in previous lives. You think you're
this
observing?
This is what I'll tell you how I gathered that. And then there was this African medicine man. It was kind of crazy because it was right in my face. I thought, just hang on, stay with it. It's okay. This is safe. Then there was this long alien, like long face and bizarre background. I remember thinking, whoa. And I started pulling out of it. And as I pulled out, so you can pull yourself awake. And as I did so, a voice said, intermission. So there was kind of a humor there, which I kind of liked. And there has been this humor. And I came out of that. A friend who I did trust, who was in a meditation, said, Greg, that sounded like a past life regression. Now, intellectually, you could say, yeah. But I felt my body, like often in the astral, your body is really quivering. And I felt my body go, and I thought, yep, that's what it was. I just knew. And then I thought, that's interesting that my past life, there's been this a non-human. Because there were also, I also around the same time, I'd go off on astral from a lucid dream. I remember one lucid dream. I was in the dream and I went up and sort of hugged this androgynous kind of bald alien in a spacesuit, hilarious silver spacesuit, and all these panels behind in different colors. And as I hugged him or she, he or she kind of pushed me back. It was a bit too much emotion, but I kind of knew them somehow. And then he or she said, let me show you something. Then I went into a full-on astral experience where it was kind of like, like where you have total lucidity of mind. You know that your body's sleeping in bed. You know where you're living. So this being, and then look,
sort of guided you through the experience, did they?
That's right. And I remember I went onto one ship once where this frequency was like a jet, a screeching jet, and I was flying up and I saw these other naked astral bodies flying up to this jet from Earth. It was really weird, and there was this huge. It was like a spaceship, but a massive spaceship. And there were these tall white beings. And it was kind of questionable what was going on then. So it did get into the realms of like, this is interesting. They're kind of recycling fear from human emotions. And I was kind of shown all these things. It was kind of, they were and what I found, there were different beings of probably different agendas, if you like, just like anywhere.
They had different roles or something, did they?
Yes, different roles.
What do you mean that what they were recycling? What? The fear from humans?
It was like the unconscious trauma. It was really weird. So I found that in this particular ship, it was like everyone was sort of walking around like zombies, and often people. What I found is that everybody goes astral anyway.
Yeah.
Everybody's leaving their body before dawn. They have to get these energies, and we seem to need this to be human. So I was trying to wake people up in this place, trying to wake people up, say, hey, and I just had the feeling. I remember I found a doorway and it was very real. It's like this sort of plate metal sheeting, this very modern ship, and I opened this sort of portal and I'm on kind of this ground. I thought, well, I thought I was in space, but it was kind of not Earth, but it wasn't. And this guy came out. It was all telepathic. Everybody in the astral talks telepathically. No one talks verbally or talks through the mouth. And,
which correlates with anyone who's sort of had some sort of on this Earth experience with aliens. They all say the same thing. There's no spoken word. It's just what they are saying because they project it into your brain.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, that's a common expression from anyone who's had an interaction with them.
That makes sense, and it all seems really natural. Like, and you sort of learn that way of being. But this particular being, said to me, you can leave whenever you want. You can even kill yourself, but we will always have access to your energy. And I thought that was a weird thing to say. The fact that he said that, but also the fact that I had that conversation, to know that was interesting. So what I found was like around the earth, there was this like, often when I'd astral travel, I realized, oh, there's this incredible fear I get really scared. And I realized it wasn't my fear. And you realize there's these levels of fear that are kind of almost probably birthed from the human traumatic experience, perhaps. I don't know.
Yep.
And when you realize it's not yours, it releases you. So I think this being, in fact, was helping me by telling me that, and then you look at, now it's funny because that kind of pushed me into doing energy healing, which is pretty left field for what I thought I would have been doing in my life.
Yeah.
And what I found is that, generally embedded trauma, or trauma that is not consciously experienced, tends to guide a person's life, often not for the better. And that particular energy is being recycled by certain beings. So that goes into the whole.
Are they cleansing people of their trauma and then sending them back to Earth? So
Not those
like
ones.
a reset.
Those ones, they call them the tall whites. Those ones. Other people have talked about them as well. So they're just the kind of ones that would be questionable. I think they're recycling unconscious trauma and probably funneling it back into this gets pretty philosophical, but into a karmic kind of paradigm that people come back into to experience trauma again and again and again. So I think, if we jump in the deep end, how I feel now, having done my healing and the astral experiences, is that we're here to really shed trauma so that we don't necessarily have to incarnate into realms, that are so kind of, what would you say, kind of, it's almost an addiction to trauma in this realm.
I feel like I astral traveled, and I didn't know the name of it. I had a Reiki session. I think it was my second, with a young girl who was practicing here, locally. And I just remember it was very hard to explain afterwards, but I must have fallen asleep while she was doing her healing. And I remember, like, I felt like I was, like the sun kind of came down. It was really warm and really comforting, and I just felt just so much peace. And I do recall the bright light. And I remember just seeing this forest and seeing Grant, my husband, who had a baby on his hip with very, very blonde hair, about a 2-year-old. And he was walking along with my 2 other daughters. Now, this was, I think Scout was about 2. And I just remember looking at them and just feeling this complete sense of peace and bliss. And we just kind of danced for a bit in this forest. And
we were struggling to fall pregnant.
No, we hadn't even decided to fall. No, because Scout was only 2 and we were only having 2 children.
Yeah.
So I had kind of met our 3rd daughter, and I'd met her many years before, and I still don't understand it. I'd met her many years before we even contemplated having her, and now she looks exactly the same as the person that I described that I'd seen. But not only that, this is what really blew me away. I also met 2 sisters of ours that were dancing, and they didn't talk to me, but I just communicated with them somehow, and they had said that they were the sisters that, like one was Grant's sister who came after his younger sister, and the other one was my sister who came after my younger sister, and they were never born, and they were dancing around, and they kind of made me feel
miscarriaged.
Miscarriaged, yeah. Now I didn't know that. When I came to, and she said, okay, that's the end of the Reiki session, I said to her, I've just had the most incredible, I don't even know how to explain this. I've just seen Grant in a forest. I've got a third child, and I've met two sisters, one mine, one's Grant, who were never born. And, you know, and we still joke about it today when I see her, because as it turns out, we did have, sisters that passed that we didn't even know about. And I've had the daughter that I met. And so somebody then said to me that was astral traveling, and I'm fascinated in it.
It is bizarre, isn't it? I totally agree. And that feeling of bliss is one of the characteristics. And also because I've analyzed things a lot in the astral, like I'll even sometimes force myself to wake up when someone's talking to me in the astral, when there's something going on, and everything speeds up to a point like really fast. And I realize there's kind of no real time out there. So what they call beyond the 3D, it's kind of like, that's why it's so blissful, because your mind gets in a very singular space. So you can be very, how we talk about being present now as being, for meditation and stuff. There you are by default in this singular space of presence, because it's beyond time. So there's the past and future, all of that kind of merges. And more I realize that like everything's kind of already happened. And I think the beauty about the whole astral experience and kind of cultivating conscious astral body, it is the preemptive body. So everything comes through. The astral body actually sits around the physical. So it's like cocooning. Everybody's got it. It's like a filter, And so when that gets active, you become so preemptive. Like everything is like a déjà vu. And it's somehow very comforting. It's like this feeling that you're kind of on a horse riding through something that's already been ridden, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
so that doesn't surprise me at all. It's an amazing experience.
But what I want to know is, what is the purpose? Because for me, the purpose of that, I think that lay dormant then for me to know I have to have another child. Like and I did say that when I came home to you. I said, I think it's telling me to have another child, right? Which was, again, another strange experience, because through that I kept miscarrying, and I had to have a healer, and he ended up, I had issues from a past life where I lost a child. Funny that you said, China, Mongolia, because it kind of, I had this very clear vision when he was healing, but very fleeting. I just want to know, what is the purpose? Like obviously the purpose for you was to change your life so that you could start healing people.
It seems that way, even though, funnily enough, even though I'm doing that kind of full time, it's kind of like I don't see myself as that. So I think it's look, it is very preemptive, as I said. Like often I'd get out of body and I'd see myself even teaching people how to astral travel, and I thought, what? Really? And I think in many ways it is, I know it's a word that's being used a lot, but I think it is a kind of a waking up of our spirit. I mean, as I said in the beginning, I was kind of playing silly buggers. I was getting out of body like a ghost in this realm, just having a ball. I'd be booing people. Seriously. And what I found is, like, I could go in the street because I was just jumping out. And if someone was walking on the footpath, I could kind of stand there, and as they go through me, I could sense their whole emotional state and everything that had gone on. And I thought, wow, that's bizarre.
That is so.
So
it is bizarre.
You'd let them. So when you're in this experience, you would see people on the street, and you would stand, and they would walk through you, and you could feel all of their emotions.
And you could influence them.
Oh, this is awesome.
Right. This is what I found bizarre. Now, so as I said, I was not at that stage early on. It was like happening basically every night. Like as soon as I close my eyes, I go out of body, and it was like really weird, wacko stuff. I remember once flying down to a church for some reason, and someone was coming out of the church, and they were kind of in that, sort of like, not to put it down, but in that kind of a pious mood. So I could sort of see the aura was very like, very green, very expanded. And I flew down and I said something like, Jesus loves you, just for a joke, and I just did it randomly. And I remember them kind of, they'd have a start, and then there was this guy standing behind me, very nice looking guy, and he just said, Greg, don't do that again. And in words, it sounds a little bit, but I felt it was a guardian. It was nicer in that vibe. It was kind of like, it was very gentle and very caring. He just said, don't, because I was look, early on too, these guides took me out. I remember I'd go out of body. Whenever I closed my eyes, I just get taken out. It was the same place. And it was like this medieval inn, like in the UK or anyway. So I'm in there and there's this guy and this girl and they're just looking at me and I'm going, okay, I wake up and then I close my eyes straight back.
Wow.
And they were telling me about myself. This was early on. And I thought, what? And they said, where are your guides? And I thought, yeah, right. And I said, where am I? And I remember one of them said, we're in Gwyneth. And I, said, Gwyneth Paltrow, yeah, making jokes. I found out later, Gwyneth, spelled EDD at the end, pronounced Gwyneth, was this Welsh medieval place known for some spiritual. And they were telling me about the different realms. And it was like a Welsh medieval inn. Like,
Wow.
And anyway, then I come back again the same night and I'm in a field and the woman's there and she's telling me about auras. I'd never read about auras, wasn't interested in that sort of stuff. And telling me about these, energy centers and all this kind of stuff. And I was seeing this stuff and it was beautiful. I remember the grass and the light was, and I was just insulting her because I thought, like, what's going on here? Now, really, what is going on? And I remember she just laughed. I thought, okay, she doesn't get offended. And then, and that was when I realized it was a spiritual thing because she said, look, we've been watching you for some time. Why are you so sad? And I remember she just looked at me and I thought, whoa. And I woke up going, what's this? Why are they talking? Why am I so sad? And they'd been telling me all about my life and stuff. And then
So can I just ask a question? Sorry.
Yes.
Were you sad?
Well, looking back, I'd experienced a bit of trauma, but not overtly, not thinking compared to anybody else. I was just a musician, probably drinking my way through life as they did, a little bit.
Yeah.
Probably a bit unconscious. Looking back, I was, but it started me, going to a few energy healers myself and just looking into myself. But it kind of really kick-started things. I realized this was a spiritual thing going on. It wasn't just me having fun out there playing silly buggers.
Yeah.
So the general sense of purpose that they were there to help you and help you
guide
find
you.
your higher self or the next level of your own self.
Exactly. It wasn't random. So that was what it, because I really thought, there's aliens, there's technology, I'm being shown tech in my brain, or like, what's going on? But then this was like, okay, there's some reason to it. Yeah.
Being shown
Greg, because you've got this classical musical background, are you going to take this to Broadway, mate? This is a show in the making.
Absolutely. Look, and I've been doing some tap classes as well, so I'm just thinking,
Get the cane out, top hat.
Do you, because you are a musician and you can use that is it your left side of the brain? Is that an indicator that if you do have a strong, left side of the brain,
I would have thought it'd be the
this?
opposite, to be honest.
Oh,
yeah,
I would have
it's
thought.
a good question. I think, I'm not sure. I know the frequency. I know what you're saying because as a kid, I had problems falling asleep. I'd ask everyone, how do you fall asleep? Like I was hopeless at falling asleep. And I kid you not, I didn't understand what people were doing. I thought I'd lie there for hours thinking, okay. And so what I'd often do to fall asleep was I'd have to think of a story or I'd think of music. And then when the music became real, I knew I was asleep.
oh wow.
So when I'd actually hear the music, and in the Astral, you hear it's hilarious. You hear this beautiful harp music and heavenly music, hilarious, cliched stuff, but you often hear it. But in terms of the left brain, what happened was I was still doing music up until about, how many years ago? About 13 years ago or so. But I was conducting this concert once because I used to conduct. And in terms of going back to the question, was I happy? What I realized was there was a lot of ego in that profession. And I found myself, after the astral experiences started happening, I was often saying the wrong things at the wrong, like I'd often speak my truth in situations that wasn't a good idea.
Yeah, right.
Put it that way. And I was conducting this concert and I felt these invisible hands pulling me away. And it was really quite bizarre. And I thought, okay, I'll just get through this. And then I was meditating not long after that. And I had this weird tweak in the back left brain of my head. This happened a good, probably about 12 years ago. I came out of it and said to my wife, I said, something weird has happened. It wasn't unpleasant. It was like someone pressed a finger in the back of my left brain. I couldn't put a sentence together. I kid you not. I couldn't. And I was still doing half music, half Reiki, not quite telling people about my Reiki, but And when I'd go to, I didn't want to do the music anymore. And when I go there, I was a funny guy, like a really funny guy, but I couldn't think of the words in the conversation. I had to rehearse the names of people in my family and all this stuff. So my left brain was kicked out of the window. It was so odd. And then we disappeared to Spain for a couple of years so I could get my words back. And what I felt was that was how I got into my book. I actually wrote down the book as a therapy about my astral experiences to bring it out into the world because I haven't really spoken about it, but also as a therapy to get from one end of the sentence to the other. It was so bizarre.
Wow. That's incredible. So what do you think happened?
I don't know. Years later, when I moved to Brisbane, I used to live in Melbourne, but I did get some concussion. I went and they did because I had tinnitus for about 6 months, and then went away. But I did get some scans, and I told them about that, and they said could have been a mini stroke, but they checked and there were no lesions. So there's no reason for that. I've met one French woman who's come to an astral thing I did once, and she had the same thing, and they called it in French, of course, they called it left brain freeze. So it's a thing.
Wow.
So weird. So it gets back to what you're saying, Grant. I think the left brain is the analytical part of the brain.
I think
right?
so. Yep.
Yeah. So that
and right
so
brain
then
is the creative.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what I tell you, the upshot of it was, I told a friend in Melbourne when this happened because I wasn't talking much, and they said, "Okay." There are no other physical issues, and they said, "Look," they knew about what I was doing, and they said it's kind of like what do you call the flip side? Like I was going out of body a lot. So what also happened was the narrator was kicked out of the equation. So the narrator, you know how we often have a narrator? My brain went silent.
Yeah, right.
And it still is to this day. So it's very easy to meditate. Like there's just nothing going on. It's like this kind of delicious dumbness.
So you don't have that
Whoa.
that sort of we all suffer from it. The dialogue that's constantly bombarding our brain, where we're running our own the monkey mind. We're running our own commentary on things. Sometimes there's that negative self-talk. Oh, you idiot! Of course you've dropped your glasses. You always do that. So you don't have that running at all.
Radio silence, but it was so odd for a while. So it's like there's nothing going on. It's the weirdest thing. And I think it was, as that person said, kind of like from doing that kind of weird stuff, what people would call weird, going out of body and stuff. And it just closed down. So, but I, as I said, I had to learn how to talk again. I had to often rehearse names.
Well, you said you were anxious, right? And a lot of anxiety comes from that constant commentary
Yes, it
and
does.
self-analysis and comparison of others and that internal dialogue that just spins and spins and spins its wheels constantly. So I wonder if they've rescued you from your anxiety by removing that self-talk from you.
Absolutely. And the fact that happened through meditation, and also it was pleasant and everything leading up to that, you know what I mean? And also it forced me to kind of come out about the astral thing, because I used to think that people would think I'm mad if I spoke about that, like this guy's. But I found that since then it's been great. I've loved it, yeah.
And have you met lots of people who have got similar stories? And
Yeah, how common do you reckon it is?
Yeah, I tell you, I have ever since like when you write, when you come out in public about it. So, and so many similar ones, like past life things, meeting ETs, guides. Even there's this planet I used to go to meditate in the astral. To meditate in the astral is the highest of the high. That it's hard to explain. You feel so good. I remember I go to this planet. It was like a small little planet. It looked like a physical planet, but had the horizons very close. And there were two moons. I remember a red moon, another moon. And I closed my eyes and I just remember feeling, I'll meditate here. And I remember when I went there, this was before the left brain thing. I remember this feeling of, it was a spiritual thing. It was a feeling there's nothing to strive for, that every little twist and turn in my life has got me to this point. So therefore, by owning that and realizing that was the right thing, then I'm actually owning the present. Otherwise, I'm denying the present if I'm constantly going back and think, these high emotional spots. And I've since learned that in shamanic circles, they call that soul retrieval. So there's parts of you that are kind of stuck in the past, in trauma.
Yeah.
So on this planet, it was just this incredible realization that everything is as it should be, because it is.
What a comfortable.
Now, other astral travelers told me they've been to the same planet, meditated, and had the same feelings.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And that's weird.
Quick, hit the sound effect, Grant.
Wow, hang on. Wow,
We're a bit slow on the sound effects, but that is awesome.
I love this stuff.
I know. Can anyone astral travel?
Yeah,
Greg?
how do we do it?
Yeah.
Give us some tips.
And
Yeah, I'll give you some tips.
can you
first of
astral
all,
travel? Sorry, if you've got ADHD.
You can all do it. I tell you what, I tried not doing it for 2 nights. I tried not doing it, and I tell you, I was suicidal.
Wow.
Every human is doing it. What I found is, so if you get out in this dimension, which is like what they call 4D, so it's kind of like a ghost. If you watch people before dawn, that everyone's going out, and I would often with friends, I try to wake them up, and I could and it was like they were drunk, and I try to yank them out of their body. Early on, I was trying to do everything. So everyone is getting out anyway. We have to kind of go home to get this rejuvenative energy into our cells. So that's why we can be in a hard place in our life, but still feel relatively chirpy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sense of humor. So everyone, look, I'm convinced everyone can do it. I think it takes a little bit of application, and just, people who are meditating or even people listening to this podcast will probably have some interest. So therefore, look, I'd say yes. And a lot of my students have had amazing experiences, and most people get some kind of glimpse of something else, and that's what they're looking for, So it depends. Yes is the answer to that. Physical, mental relaxation, and kind of putting the idea that you can do it and imagining yourself going out of body and losing the fear of it. Because one thing with astral travel, you lose the fear of death. You really do. And everyone says that.
That's a cool
it's like
bonus.
yeah, it is a bonus. It's like those who have near-death experiences. You know that you live on. You just know it.
Is it heaven? Or what's your belief of something that we call heaven in this realm?
I've been there, and I went to a place hilarious. It was like this European cafe in sort of spring, summer. And I'm there going, and I got there through an elevator. I remember this elevator will pop up at the end of my bed, and I go, this is interesting. I kid you not. And I'm jumping in there. I'm looking around, my wife's saying, but everything's as it should be. But there's an elevator at the end of the bed. So I jump into it, and I go up it, and these eyes would check me at different levels, like, oh, yeah, you're okay. Up you go. Like bouncers.
Like security.
Security. And I got to the top, and I'm going, whew, nice air, and there's kind of cobblestones, beautiful cafe, the spring trees, very European, very kind of, that European cafe thing. And there was someone drinking your tea. Everyone's drinking tea and coffee. Smells good. And I went over to someone and said, where am I? And she said, you're in heaven. And I thought, now, really, I felt that it did feel good. It felt like maybe, the whole thing is a kind of matrix, if you like. But I think my feeling is that we probably, at some stage when we've lost, sounds pretty deep, but when we've lost the kind of craving for suffering, which I think the earth realms have a lot for, when we realize we don't identify with that anymore, so with suffering at all, then I think we probably don't come back to this realm. So we'll go on to a realm that is lots of stuff going on out there, lots of stuff. So I think we just maybe
Keep
go
evolving.
to another place.
So
yeah, I think it is evolving.
So in all your experiences, all the places you've gone, all the things you've been told and taught, what do you believe are we doing now? What are we on? What are we in? And what's the purpose of this earth life experience?
Yeah, well, a lot what I said, I think it is a karmic thing. I think we tend to think that, and it's funny, I've spoken to some Buddhists about that and I agree. So I think we tend to think that, this equals that, good, bad, you do this, you should be. So that's what I mean by karmic. When we kind of evolve, we're going to learn that we don't need to suffer. So when we realize that you can feel empathy for someone who's done a terrible thing, or when you genuinely feel, when you don't react. So we're learning here to let go of reaction and reactivity, and so that we'll. And I think actually personally, I think what I've seen, there's these other humans I used to go and visit and have meetings with. This is pretty weird, but they weren't humans. They looked like us, but they weren't third dimensional ones, and there was no talking. And when I spoke to them, it was like a council around a table. It was really bizarre. This was also through the elevators, same time of my life. And they would talk on subjects that I had no idea. And when I came to speak, I remember what's going on. It just came out of my head, and I was talking about situation on Earth and the distribution of resources, like stuff that I know, at that, I'm not a particularly political person or so socially kind of, at that stage anyway. And what I found is that these beings look like us, they look like evolved humans. They didn't have emotional bodies. So in the beginning, I thought they cold-hearted, then I realized they weren't. They had very clear auras and they didn't have emotional bodies. So I now think, and working as a healer, I think we're here to actually heal our emotions. Now, what I mean by that is there's feelings and emotions, okay? That's how I see it. Emotions belong in the realms of conditional, which is really not truth, whereas feelings just arise because that you feel good. Whereas an emotion, you feel good because you got an ice cream, and therefore, as soon as you get that ice cream, you feel good, but you know that it can be taken away from you or it will not last, and therefore that it's filling a void for a short amount of time. So that's what I call conditional. So it's like we're living in a parallel reality from this conditional realm. As you said, you felt the bliss in the astral, Chezzi. Like there is that feeling of that you are this incredible feeling of bliss, or I hate to say it, but kind of this feeling of love that you are it. So here we're not. We think.
Is this just level one of like a computer game where this is our starting point, this is our basic level, and we've got to fix ourselves, and then we go on to the next level, which is a better level, and then another level? I
know it sounds a bit crap when you put it that way, but kind of. I think not necessarily just level one. There are other levels, and I think when we absolutely, personally on a spiritual level, I think when we absolutely embrace this reality for the beauty that it is, kind of thing, then we're probably not going to need to incarnate here. So it is an evolutionary thing. I think we've chosen to probably have resistance. Like say we're sitting there somewhere that's this is blissful sensation. Because in the astral, like I remember, like I want a chocolate ice cream, right? You got it. Perfect chocolate. Best. I don't know the recipe.
This is amazing.
It's perfect.
I want a red Ferrari, and then I have a red Ferrari.
Exactly. So you have immediate manifestation. So
yes.
And I think that's weird. And beings who live there, that's too easy. So I think that perhaps it's good. I think perhaps we're wanting this resistance, like going for a run up a hill. Like it's a bit of a game. It's a bit of fun. Whereas when we're in it, it's all a bit heavy and a bit traumatic. But I think from a higher perspective, we're getting to know ourselves, and it's a bit of fun.
Man, this has been
It's good,
fun.
isn't it? And I
That is
I said
unbelievable.
that we would need to talk to you for 20 minutes, and we've just sorry, we've kept you for a really long time.
George is just fantasizing about the ability to manifest some hot chick instead of a blow-up doll. like that's...
It would be nice. I'll be texting you later, Greg.
Yeah, I'm thinking that and the musical, the Broadway.
Got a good thing going.
Hey, Greg, how can people find you?
If they just Google Greg Doyle Astral, that's my site, Greg Doyle Astral.
Greg Doyle,
Doyle,
Doyle.
Y-L-E, yeah, astral.com. And I think probably only Greg Doyle that does astral stuff. So they'll find me, and they can find me there.
And they can buy your books from...
They can buy my book. I've got a book there. I'm writing a fiction book now on the subject as well. But it's a blue, they'll see it. This is the book. That's the book that I've been told it's an interesting read as well. So
Awakening the Giant Within, a personal adventure into the astral realms.
Yeah, it's just about how it happened. And there's a few exercises and stuff. And then on my side, I've got like an online course, and I've got an astral retreat coming up in December for a few days in Queensland, just out of Brisbane, where we'll just go through just to get to people for a few days where they can just sort of zone out and just stay there and just get into some astral stuff and get some experiences.
So but just before you go, so if you went to heaven, and obviously God loves baguettes and coffee, because that's what you smell and saw up there.
Yeah. Not decaf.
So if you went to heaven, God, a creator of some sort, yes or no?
Look, I think we're it. I think we're an aspect of it. I think you tap into that creative. It's all about creation, isn't it? I mean, there is something going on that is greater than, like I got to tell you the most bizarre. I had an astral experience when I'm awake once, and I actually, my whole body lifted up when there's vibrations going on. It was so cool.
Hang on, your actual body lifted up?
Yes.
You levitated.
It was so freaky. I didn't want to say the word, but it was that.
Man.
And I wouldn't believe it if anybody told me that, but I damaged this knee, and it was in a brace, and then these weird things happened. Then I didn't have to have an operation. Like, it was It was bizarre, and so I just kind of used
Mate, you
like a
could
man.
go to Vegas and you could have a residency there, like just doing that shit day in, day out and be paid millions.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but money doesn't probably mean anything to him now. 'Cause
No,
he's seen
but it's
the
a cool trick.
Oh my gosh,
It's a cool trick.
we need
I
to
know that-
evolve on this podcast, don't we?
No, it is bizarre because you can have astral experiences when you're entirely awake. So that's interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's,
Thanks so much
Yeah,
for sharing
thank
that, Greg.
you.
Incredible.
Thank you.
Look, our only role in this podcast is to not be too closed to strange ideas or unusual ideas, and we love this chat. We've had little tastes of it in our life, just the tiniest of glimpses, but to see the full potential of where it can go in someone who's had that has been an unreal experience for us. So thank you so much, Greg. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you. I'd
thank
love to
you.
chat.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot.
thank
Thanks for having
you.
me.
We'll get you
Great.
back on when
Cool.
when we learn how to astral travel ourselves.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you.
Let us know if
you.
something crazy happens, or if there's something we need to know, like if the end of the world is happening. Just feel free to let us know in advance.
Yeah, shoot us a text.
Just so we
Yeah,
have
I'll
to
text
get
you
our.
the date. I'll text you the date and where to go.
Thank you. Yeah, that'd be great. Just we want to get our
Thanks,
affairs in order before it happens.
Yep.
Classic.
All the best, mate.
Thank you.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
I need to make up a little outro that goes, "That was believable" at the end, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, that's some crazy stuff.
On this, GD, I did get a message, and I think I'll bring it to the next episode, but it has something to do with those funny lights that you saw that night when you were driving to Macca's with that old friend of yours, and they were
Yep.
flying everywhere.
Yep.
Somebody actually sent me a video in regards to that, so we might bring that up at some point next episode.
Yeah.
Hang on, what are you talking about? Someone sent you a video of some wacky lights doing some stuff.
Yeah, man, just through my Insta, @_G Sarge. Anything you want to shoot through there, voice memos or photos or videos.
Oh, yeah. Maybe people can tell their own story. If you don't want to come on the podcast, so _G Sarge.
Yep.
You'll find him in Insta. Send him a voice message and just leave your crazy story there and we'll play it.
That'd be awesome.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. So just record it in voice memos and then send it to George. Whew, that was good. That was.
I
Really
mean, where
good.
do we go from here?
I'm not sure.
Go and try and do it.
Old mate's pretty much just met God. Yeah, that's pretty hard to beat. How's the elevator at the end of his vent? Just going.
I know.
You know what? It sounds like movies, right? But I've always believed that there is some truth in movies. I think.
Yeah, because people would have seen, like these directors and things would have seen it. Like the fact that he had never seen that movie Contact until
And the
3 weeks
wormhole.
after
Yeah.
he'd had the
And
experience.
it was the same design.
and
This is
he-
what I'm saying. Like people who have changed the course of history or influenced humanity on a crazy level, I reckon, have had these kind of experiences
Yeah.
where you the invention of the internet was so unfathomable. How did someone come up with the very first design, right? And I feel like he just said he's been shown technology that doesn't exist.
Yes.
Right?
But that's not his purpose. That's why it didn't mean anything to him.
I've often wondered whether someone is given an idea and then they come back and go, "Oh, I've had this idea. This is incredible. No one's ever thought of this. I'll go do it." And then it changes life forever.
But maybe they don't know that they've been given that idea.
That's right.
He was
Maybe it's
saying
been
that it
planted.
happens at night. Everybody goes back home. Remember he said everybody goes back home to recharge. Maybe that idea is put into your mind.
And that's how we have evolved so incredibly. You know, maybe when, the doctor or the scientist who discovered, penicillin, maybe that was like, he astral traveled that night and that idea was planted in his head and he comes back, "Oh, I know how to save millions of lives. Penicillin." I wonder.
It's so interesting. Like, as I said, I had that experience with Sunday and even, when I came home and I said to you, I think we're going to have another daughter.
And she looked exactly like she looks now.
Exactly.
That's great.
Because I described her a few years. Actually, it would have been if Scout was 2, she's now 7 and Sunday's 2, so 5 years difference. So for 5 years, I kind of pictured in the back of my head that we would have another daughter, but she'd have really blonde hair.
That's cool.
Speaking of kids, I just had 2 kids after the chat with Flavia last week.
You did.
That was quick. Oh, well,
Yeah.
Very,
congratulations.
very quick.
Are you still like thinking about that and feeling?
I'm currently broadcasting from Townsville with my blonde, long-haired.
I don't think she said she was
Lady.
blonde. I think she said she was
Brown.
a horse, didn't she?
She was a horse, actually. Yeah. She's in the stable at the back.
Oh, classic. Oh my gosh, that was great. Really good.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Hope you
Yeah.
enjoyed another episode of It's All True. Jeez, we go to some places,
We
mate.
do. Just before we go, cough. Yes, I've got it.
This is going to
got it over you.
plague the rest of my life. I'm above this. I'm going to astral travel to another place where you are nicer.
Cough.
An alternate universe where you are kind and nice.
Oh,
And we
Bye,
have
lovers.
sex often.
bye. Oh.
Okay, bye.
Okay. Oh, classic.
It's All True, the podcast with Grant and Chezzi George.
Bye